Hey guys, welcome to your first drum class. This is a drum set. We're gonna go through the parts quickly so that you understand what I'm talking about as we go through this video. Let's have a seat. This is your throne. This is where you sit down. I'm gonna start with your feet. We're gonna put our first foot on the bass pedal, which is this one. This is the bass drum. Then we're gonna put our other foot here on the hi-hat pedal. This is the hi-hat. Sorry if I sound a little monotonous. Okay, let's move on. This is the snare. It's always gonna be right under the hi-hat. This is a tom. That's a tom. This is your high tom. This is your low tom. Let's go to cymbals. We've been through hi-hat. It's the one that claps. We got a crash here. This is an 18-inch fast crash. And then we have a ride cymbal. This one's gonna be a little thicker, and when you hit it, it's gonna sound different. Now, really quick, this is another crash. This is a 16-inch crash. Sometimes you have 2 cymbals, sometimes you have 3, sometimes you have extra ones. But what you need to know is that this is called the bell of the cymbal. Sometimes we're gonna hit the bell, especially on this ride cymbal. So once again, we have bass drum, hi-hat, snare, high tom, low tom, ride cymbal with the bell, and 2 crashes. All right, let's start. All right, so let's go through what's in your drum bag. This is a drum bag. It's just a little bag that hangs off the low tom. You carry your sticks. You guys probably won't need one because you're only going to need 1 pair of, these are drumsticks. These are my favorite pair. This is a Vic Firth American Classic 8DN with the nylon tip. You can also go with a regular drumstick with the wood tip, but if you hear the nylon tip, is just going to give you a little brighter sound. What else is in here? We have some brushes. This is just for like jazzy, quiet playing. You probably won't need these because these are more for live, quiet sessions. Something that's really fun and I use a lot are these things called mallets. Mallets just a drumstick with a ball of yarn at the top. And what you can do is kind of, get that cool cymbal sound, get some rolls. I would do it. Alright, so in this class we're going to talk about a few things. Like I mentioned, if you auditioned, we're going to first teach you the basics of what a drum beat stands on, and then we're going to talk about my favorite thing to talk about, which is dynamics. Dynamics means when you play something soft, when you play something loud. The next thing we're going to talk about is fills. Those are the fancy things that you do between the beats. And then hopefully we can get through this thing called ghost notes, or just a few more components that are really fun to play with that layer into dynamics. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about, we already talked about the parts of the drums. Hopefully that's not too loud. The hi-hat. Now the hi-hat's really fun because the hi-hat, you have to keep your foot close to get that crisp sound. But you can also kind of loosen it up and get a nice sizzle. Good. So we're just going to start with these 3. The bass drum, the snare, and the hi-hat. Now, thankfully you guys are old enough, you know your numbers, you can count to 4. If you can count to 4, I'm going to assume you can count to 8. If you can count to 8, that means you can count to 16. And when we're talking 16, we're talking drums. So, we're going to count to 4. We're going to count a tempo. Remember that word? That's going to count, that's like the timing of the song. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Now, when I say 1, we're going to hit the bass drum, right? Every odd number is going to be 1 and 3, so we're going to hit the bass drum. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to include the snare on the even numbers, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to hit the hi-hat on every single one, right? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you hear that I kind of went? That's because I want to play 8th notes. Now let's talk 8th notes. 8th notes are going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we're gonna hit it on the hi-hat like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now we're gonna incorporate our bass and our snare, which sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4 to this. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's your basic pocket drum beat. You can play that at any tempo. Let's try it a little slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's go slower and let's play quarter notes on the hi-hat. Remember, quarter notes are just the 1, 2, 3, 4. When you say 1 and 2 and, that's eighth notes. We'll get to 16th notes in a second, but that's eighth notes. Let's do quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Very good. Now, you guys here in the classroom, I just want you to practice that. And I know that you don't all have drum sets, you just have the sticks. So when you're at home, you're gonna have your legs, right? And you're gonna tap your foot, which is your right foot, and you're gonna pretend that you're hitting that bass note. You're gonna hit, and your right thigh is gonna be your hi-hat. So you're gonna go like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's all I want you guys to do. Take 5 minutes and give that a shot. Alright, so like I said in the last video, what we're gonna work on is the foundations of drumming, which is tempo, dynamics, fills, and there's probably a few more, but let's do those, right? Keep the tempo good. You are the heartbeat of the song. Make sure you're on beat so everybody else can be on beat. And number 2, dynamics. You gotta play loud, you gotta play soft, you gotta pay attention. You gotta pay attention to where the song's going. You listen to certain songs, Christian songs or whatever, and you'll hear sometimes there's a build up. When you're building up, that means you're gonna get loud, and that's good. And sometimes there's a fade out, and the fade out is just gonna bring it down. Now there's one thing I really wanna clarify, you guys. Just because you're playing loud does not mean you're playing fast. Tempo and dynamics are related, but they are not equivalent. For example, we can play a beat, right? I'm just gonna lay one down, kind of like really, let's do a really quiet one, but a really fast one, right? So it's a little faded, right? Or like, alright. And now I can play loud, and it's going to get a little loud, so I'm going to try to be careful. But I can play loud and play slower, right? So you get the build up. Okay, sorry, that was a little loud. But just because the tempo is slower, does that mean I got to play quiet? Just because the tempo is... does not mean I have to play loud just because it's fast. But I could play loud and fast. I could play slow and quiet. It's just when we're talking about tempo is one thing, and when we're talking about dynamics, that's another. Alright, really quickly, let's talk about 2 things about the snare. We were just talking about dynamics, playing soft. So there's this thing where you can hold the drumstick with the tip on the nylon tip, or you can turn it around so the butt, yeah, it's a butt. We're gonna point it towards the bass drum, right? So we're gonna lay it down just like that. You hear that sound? That kind of gives you like a cowbell kind of click, and it's really nice, especially with slow songs. So we can play a beat, like, right? So really nice click. It's fun to throw those during the verses of a slow song. Or really, when you want to play quietly. You can play fast, whatever, but it's a nice, when you got to play quiet, it's a cool click. Now, obviously, I want you guys to practice the basic beat, which was, again, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, play it slow, you can play it fast, but I want you guys to nail that one down. And the reason being is because we're about to get real fancy with the bass drum, right? So now we can count like 1, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So now listen to this. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. What do we do there? We hit this thing called and 3. It's just a little quiet, a little different, makes it sound a little cool, a little fancy. So we got the 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. We change it 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. We change it 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Again, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. It's just a little flavor. It's just a little accent. Change. You know, you listen to a song, you hear a little bass drum. That's really cool. I really like that. The next thing we're gonna try with the bass drum is this thing called 4 on the floor. Why is it called 4 on the floor? Because this whole time we've been counting in 4s. So we're gonna go like this. Instead of playing just bass drum on 1 and 3, we're gonna play bass drum on all of them. So it's like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Bring in snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Remember I told you guys we're gonna talk about 16th notes? Let's talk about 16th notes. Alright, so let's talk about 16th notes. Let's take it a step back. Let's talk about quarter notes. Remember quarter notes? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you remember eighth notes? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, 16th notes, a full 16th note is one beat. One beat is a quarter note. So this is a quarter note, right? That's one beat. An eighth note, a whole eighth note beat is 1 and. So 1/16th note is going to be, and it's a little funny, but it says 1 E and a. So 1, the letter E, and the letter A. 1 E and a. So if I ask you to play a quarter note, you're going to play this. I ask you to play a set of eighth note, it's going to be this. When I tell you to play the full beat 16th note, it's going to be. But if you're playing, let's say this is a tempo, right? So we got the tempos like this. Quarter note, 2, 3, eighth note, 2, 3, 16th note, 2, 3, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 20 and a 2, 3, 4, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I say let's play quarter notes, listen to what we're gonna play. I'm gonna play it on the snare so you guys can hear it better. Quarter notes, just playing the first beat out of 4. The first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 16th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So let's try it. I'm gonna count every number, but I'm only gonna play the first beat. All right. So the beats are 1, 2, 3, 4. You playing just the beat? That's quarter notes. You play eighth notes, you're going to say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You're playing 16th notes, you're going to say 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. The easiest way to remember 16th notes is to say California. So you can say California, 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 California. But you hear that my clicking, I'll click. That was my snapping, but my click is going to be quarter notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. But you hear this? That's the tempo. Notes, beats, and tempo, they're not equal. We got the quarter notes, we got the eighth notes, we got the 16 notes. So let's try it again. I'm gonna play it on the snare. Just the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. You can say California, 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 California. Alright, so far we've learned the quarter notes, the eighth notes, the 16th notes, and I'm gonna throw at you guys called triplets. Triplets are fun to play when you're playing outside of a 4/4 beat, which for the most part you will be playing, and I'll explain that in a later class. Remind me we're talking about time signatures. Right now we're going to stick to the 4x4 time signature. When we're doing that, we can still have this thing called triplets. So just in the word it says triplet, triplet. Do you hear the beat? It's triplet, triplet, triplet. So even though we're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, triplet, 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 it's kind of off. It's kind of off. All right? We'll talk about triplets when I'm in person. I feel like that would work out better. So let's go back to 16th notes. All right, dudes, let's put it, ladies too, let's put it all together. So we have, I'm gonna do 4 on the floor on the bass drum. I'm gonna play quarter notes on the snare, and I'm gonna play 16th notes over here. So 4 on the floor is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's break that down. We got 16th notes, right? California, 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 California. Now what's cool about this, you're still gonna hit the 2 and 4, right? But you're gonna go like this. California, 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 California. So I'm gonna count it on the beat. I'm gonna count the beat. Not the notes, the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see how the snare is still only on 2 and 4? One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a little bit advanced, but I believe in you guys. You can figure it out. But I'm gonna teach you. All right. So let's try 8 notes. Instead of the 16 notes, take it one step back. Let's do 8 notes on the hi-hat. So that'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're gonna do 4 on the floor, 2 and 4 on the snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Good. Typically when you're doing 4 on the floor, you want to get a little fancy, which is why we do the 16th notes, because it sounds more full. Let me show you. Overshadowing the hi-hat with the 4 on the floor. When we're doing 8 notes, you don't hear the hi-hat accentuate as much. Let's hear it again. Verses. The tempo didn't change. We just went from 8 notes to 16 notes. You can go ahead and rewind and hear that a few times. You'll get it. Alright guys, so what I've been told about your final project is that you're going to have to play as a band you're going to be the drummer for the band of students. Now I just want to go over the components of a song really quickly and kind of some cheat notes, right? Some cliff notes for what the drummers kind of do for the song. So in the song you'll typically have an intro, right? The build-up is like da-da-da-da-da, whatever. And then you're going to go into something called the verse. Sometimes this can change, but typically the verse is going to be more chill, more quiet. And I'll run through a song to show you that. And the beginning is the verse, whatever. And then you're going to have this little build-up like dun, 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 whatever, And then you're going to go into the chorus. Chorus is very exciting. It's loud. You get to, get everybody pumped. You got to stay on tempo, but you have the freedom to kind of move around the drum set, throw in the fills. We'll talk about fills. But then in the chorus is really where the drummer can empower the song. From there, you might die down, fade down, come back to the verse, right? Maybe some clicks, whatever. Then they do the thing called the bridge. The bridge is more auxiliary, but what I mean by that is it might not sound like the verse, it might not sound like the chorus, but maybe you do a little free flow, you got a little toms, and you don't know, like whatever. And then you might go back to the chorus, and then you end with a bang, or you end with a fade. But I want to talk about that more next. I'm going to play a song, and you're going to kind of watch, and I'll call it out whether we're at the verse or the bridge or the chorus. All right? See you soon.
Come and rise up from the grave, 'cause